Welcome to Behind the Citgo, where we pull back the curtain on the unseen truth of addiction recovery and talk about things most people never get a chance to see. I'm your host, Josh Torbich. Each week, we're sitting down with people who lived it, led it, and are still learning from it today. This isn't polished, it's real, it's raw, and it's noted in the faith and hope because we do recover. So whether you're in recovery, walking alongside someone who is, or just trying to understand what healing really looks like, you came to the right place. Let's dig in. Hey everyone, welcome back. Another episode Behind the Citgo. One of my favorite people in the world are here today, except he showed up in a Dallas Cowboys jersey.
Best team in America.
Oh my goodness, man. I said, you wear that to work, man? That's a problem. Dwane Richardson in the flesh, one of the guys I've seen from the very start. Really proud of where he is. There's no one else who should be doing this episode with us today, because today it's all about what? Family matters. Watching as healing relationships. Recovery creates healing relationships. Mr. Dwane is going to talk to us all about that today. I guess one of the preemptive questions before we really get into the dialogue about this today, Dwane, is when through your process did it start becoming evident to you that this was going to be a thing, the relationships restoration that's found in recovery?
So I think the moment that I realized that healing family relationships was going to be a thing for me was when the fog of the addiction kind of settled down and cleared. My thoughts were coming back to me. All those things were hitting me of the bridges I had burned, the relationships I had destroyed, the path of destruction that I left in my wake. When you're in addiction, it's easy to, drown those things out, with another use or, another bottle, whatever your choice of drug is. But when you make that decision to come to terms with the things that you've done and what landed you where you are in that moment, you start to realize that, those relationships weren't relationships you wanted to lose, but you did lose them. And then it hits you that, you were the cause of losing those relationships. So it became important to me to mend those relationships, because most of the relationships that I had destroyed were with people that truly cared about me. They loved me. They tried to help me through my addiction. They tried to be there for me in the best way they knew how. And oftentimes that looked like, opening their house to me and I would steal from them, opening their bank account to me. And I would, come up with stories of this, that, and the third. I need money for this, but it was really for that. And, all that coming to the light after all that period of time. So it became important to me to mend those relationships. And I knew I had to mend me first. I knew I had to fix, my way of thinking, the way I was living, my approach to life, my expectations for other people to do things for me, to fix my problems. All those things were a sum of, I need to get back to where I'm supposed to be. And that was being a father, being a friend, being a son, a good community member, all those relationships that I had broken.
So not just day one though, right? So when you're rolling into your recovery process and you're kind of, I guess, dealing with the most urgent needs first, what, week 1, month 2, when did you start saying to yourself, bro, I need to get to thinking about how to restore these family relationships? And then part B of that is, which ones did you try to prioritize as you start to develop a pathway back to?
So early in recovery, I started to feel emotions that I had numbed for years. Like I just put them to on the back burner and pretend that they didn't exist. And then if they did try to surface, I tried to drown them, with another use or another bottle, whatever the case is. And those feelings that started to come back made me confront the reality of the people that I hurt, the pain that I had caused them. Week 1, not so much, because I was just getting level-headed, being able to think clearly, the fog lifting. And then, the more time that goes on, and the more you start to visit those places in your mind where you came from, what you just did to get where you're at, you start thinking about those individual cases with those people that you care about, and oh man, I did this. Oh man, I did that. And it becomes overwhelming in the beginning because you can't sort through all that destruction at one time. So one of the biggest things that helped me in the beginning was, being around a big group of guys who were going through the same thing I was going through. And outside of that, being in a peer-led program where people had more recovery than I did, a longer length of recovery than I did, who were able to share with me their experience, strength, and hope. Tell me, not just from a perspective of someone read it in a book and they went to school for it. I can appreciate that perspective as well, but the peer-led aspect, sitting across from someone who says, I know what you're going through. I was there. I was sitting in the seat that you're sitting in now. And, now I'm on this side and I want to tell you what helped me get through what you're going through. And then laying that out, honestly. And I have to emphasize the honest part of it, because if you try to sugarcoat it or make it seem like you weren't such a bad person, or, it really didn't cause that much harm, you really can't work through and get to the root of what the problem was. So you have to be honest through the process.
Yeah, so a lot of people influence your pathway when you were rolling into it, and maybe some of that light coaching helped you understand, yeah, I can think about these, but I definitely understand that kind of flood of things that start coming back in. You did a really good job describing it just now, in the beginning part of what you just said, because you start to remember more and more. And unfortunately, you're not remembering good things. You're remembering like the really, right? It's like, dang, bro. So like it starts out with like, you got the usual, let's just say the usual suspects that I've offended and need to rebuild with. And you already know those off the top, like the people who are closest to you. But then while you're dealing with trying to figure that out, it's like, oh, but then there was this person and this, and then they just all start to trickle back in there. And that's overwhelming. How do people find themselves navigating in the priorities of who they're supposed to restore relationships with first? Did you find that to be a struggle at all, or?
Well, if you end up in the recovery center, in the rehab, then the party's over.
The party ended a long time ago.
It's over. So all the fun time has come to an end, and now, in the beginning, it is the overwhelming, because everything hits you all at once.
Yeah,
and then you start remembering. But I think it's a natural progression that you have a sense of like who's most important to you. Your mom, your dad, the people that you knew, the people you were calling when you were desperate.
So you like started with the closest ones, probably the first. Yeah.
So okay. if they were the closest ones in your Rolodex when you were, hurting and on the street and thinking who will help me, then they're probably up there in the same tier of, they're the most important people that I need to mend these bridges with.
Yeah.
So
you got looking at your life today, and the sneak peek of it, amazing things have happened. And I'm just going to say this perspectively from an outside view really quickly for you. Like, and maybe you feel that way now, like, whoa, just, I can't believe how fast it happened. But there's a lot of things rolling up into that it didn't feel quick. Do you feel that way at all? Like now looking back, because God's done such a great work restoring your family, you have a wife, you have you're back as the primary role inside of your son Mikey's life. I mean, your whole family has just been re-intact, and it happened so swiftly. It feels like on this back. Well, do you feel like it's like, wow, how quickly did God work?
I was going to say, you say it happened swiftly, but if dog years are 7 years for one human year, we need to identify recovery years.
Okay. So
One
you're feeling
recovery
like
year
it,
might be like 10 dog years.
yeah. So you feeling like it happened slowly?
I mean, when you're in it, when you're in it, it does feel like it's snail pace progress. But being on this end of it, looking back, I can see that. One of your favorite sayings is, if you run 10 miles in the woods, you have to turn around, and the only way to get out is run 10 miles back out of the woods. And that's it. That's what recovery is. If I spent 20 years of my life in active addiction, on and off, I had times when I would try to pull it together, and it wasn't for the right reasons. It was, to hold on to a relationship that I was about to lose, or a job, or a criminal justice case, or whatever it is. But when you truly make that decision to, go into recovery, and you're going to do it for the right reason, you're ready for a change, realizing that you got to run 10 miles out of the woods, it's a big task. It's
Yeah.
a tall task. And you feel like you're doing such good work. You realize your mistakes, you realize what you did wrong, you're so sorry, you want everybody else to realize you're so sorry. But it doesn't happen that quickly. It's really I don't know how to word it correctly. Like, it antagonizes you. It's always in the back of your mind. I wish people would just see that I've made the commitment. I've changed this time. And then you get hit with that realization that you said it before. You can't expect them to pick it up and believe it right now, even though in your heart of hearts, that you've made that choice. They're looking at it like, we've been through this, same old song, same old dance, same old Dwane. And then they're just going to keep their distance and watch how it plays out. And that distance that they create, and that time that it has to play out, is time that you have to wallow in it. You have to lay in it. You have to make that bed up every night. You have to, go to sleep with it. You have to wake up with it. And that process it seems like forever, but it can't be avoided. You have to go through that process. You have to go through that time period. It's just the way things are. And I'm better for it. I'm grateful for it. My family's better for it. If it had been rushed any more than the time it took, I wouldn't have developed the way I needed to. I wouldn't have appreciated the time it took to build those relationships back. And I may have taken them for granted. If they had stepped in too soon and I wasn't ready to be the person that I needed to be, then I would have lost them again anyway. So it's hard to tell someone that's going through that process and in that waiting period, as you know, because you were my mentor through most of it. I remember you telling me, it's going to happen, but don't wait for it to happen. Be that man now. Be that person now. So that when it does happen, you can step into it confidently from a position of strength, and you're already in practice.
Mm-hmm.
You're not trying to learn on the fly of who you need to be and how you need to approach things. So when the time comes and your son steps back into your life, you're already approaching things from a father's perspective, and taking the responsibility now of how you need to, interact with them.
Wow. Yeah. So you had to they already knew that there had to be forgiveness, for you, but some of the relationships you step back into, you kind of have to forgive them because it's not all on you in some ways. Right. And I found that to be true with myself. And, I don't know how important, I guess I've never tried to articulate how important both and were, but I know it did require, if I was actually going to approach the relationship with the efforts to restore it, I kind of had to set any wrongdoing that they had to the side. And it was almost like I was asking them to do that for me. So do you feel like that the family restoration aspect has to always start with forgiving whatever there might be on that end first, so that you can truly approach with seeking forgiveness for yourself?
Bro, that you can't expect forgiveness if you don't have forgiveness to give out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, it seems like it's such a simple concept, but we want forgiveness. We want people to forgive us, look the other way, turn the other cheek, for all the things that we've done. And we feel like we deserve it for whatever reason. Maybe we made a change, and we're sorry for what we did and all that. When we're on that side of the fence, we expect forgiveness. Like, I'm doing all the right things. I'm taking all the right steps. I'm acknowledging my mistakes. It seems like it's harder when you're on the other side and someone else is asking you for forgiveness. It's like you got those emotions tied to it. And
it's like, but you did what?
But
like, you want me to?
I don't care what I did.
Yeah.
Look, it does nothing compared to that.
And the worst one for me was like whenever I would be like, well, I wouldn't have done that if you wouldn't have done it. Like, those are the worst ones for me. Like, those were the hardest things for me to approach that restoration piece with.
Realizing that statements like that are crutches that keep you handicapped.
Yeah.
And living in that space, you can't let go of something that you're going to hold on to like that, and the biggest part of, recovery and changing your life and moving in a different direction and purpose is letting go. You have to let go completely. And that's, Christian Recovery Centers is where I found, that Jesus is the way that we can relieve those burdens, and we can turn those things over to him, because us as humans, the flesh, we don't want to let go.
It doesn't come natural.
It's not natural.
Yeah.
It's not human instinct to just be like, oh, you hurt me, you're forgiven.
Yeah.
But Jesus, that's exactly what, he taught us to do is, forgive and move on and help people. So that's been a big part of my recovery journey, that ties into the family restoration part of it. Like you said, it's a two-way street. No relationship's perfect. So there was, things that I felt like my family did wrong. I went all the way back to my childhood of how, if they hadn't have put me in this situation, and if they hadn't did this and that, and they had have been better parents, and, going back, just grasping for anything that I could blame besides, my choices, my actions. And at some point you grow up, and the situation you were in, you can either move out of it or choose to stay into it. And then the decisions you make once you have control of your life, you have to own those. And that's a hard thing to do as well, because you feel like you have a right to behave the way you're behaving, because look where I just came from.
I know.
You would behave that way too.
Yeah.
If you knew where I just came from, you would understand why I'm acting this way. But it doesn't give us a free pass, to continue to jack things up because we feel like we got jacked up.
Yeah, when you get stuck inside of that space, I think that most people, they do have a hard time navigating out of it because they've put all the burden on the other people.
Right.
I always joke and, say this, but it rings so true all the time for me. And like, just as a good reminder for me that expecting things from other people that you're not willing to give yourself isn't the way the world works.
Right.
And you have no right to do that. Well, when you step into it, I guess the answer is for a lot of us that as we prioritize the relationships that we want to pursue, we're kind of signing up for a lot of work. And we know that, on the front end. And while you're saying, well, maybe it does take a couple years, from start to finish, you would say is it 2 years?
I'm at 2.5.
Two and a half. And so you've been reconciled with your family officially now. Your wife and your kids for how long?
Well, the process started for the reconciliation with my son. I graduated the program, and I started writing letters every week. His mom wasn't really receptive of me trying to reach out. She wasn't ready yet.
So there was some resistance at first. And how did can you help us zero in a little bit on
I wasn't even sure if he was getting the letters.
Sure. Yeah. So you were just started out though. You were sending letters to him.
Sending letters, and, I sent it at first to the address that we lived at together. And, I started questioning whether she was giving them to him or if he was getting them. And I thought to myself, well, I'll write the letters and send them to her grandma's house. And there's no way that somebody won't tell her, like, hey, Dwane's trying to reach out to his son. Why don't you give him these letters? So I kept doing that. I didn't hear anything. And that went on for a while, but I kept at it. And one day I just got a text message that said, hey, here's some pictures of Mikey at his football game. I thought you'd enjoy these.
Wow.
And from that, I responded, like, I really appreciate this.
How long did it? How many letters? How long were the letters? Just the letters being sent. You were kind of dropping them into the never-ending mailbox, is
Right.
what you're saying. Like you would open the slot on the door and drop it in, and you're not sure where it went after that because you. So how long of that? How many times did you have to do that?
It had to be at least 6 months worth of that.
Okay.
And I was putting a $20 bill in there every Friday, and I'll admit, selfishly at first, I was like, trying to prop myself up, like, here's some money, I'm doing okay. And it wasn't all about him. It was trying to show her that I had changed and that things would be different. I was consistent. I was doing what I was supposed to do. And I have to admit that during that process, I got kind of jacked up and turned around and started having those thoughts like, wasting $20 every week. I could be doing something else with it. It ain't making a difference. And, those thoughts of, getting angry with her for the way things were, that I know I created the way things were, but because she was on her side of it and I was on my side of it, I was looking across like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Like,
why the $20? So why is that? Why not just a note? Why just throwing a $20 bill in there? Was there like financial amends that you were trying to make through that, or?
I had just graduated a program. I was in an internship, and so the money that I had coming in was from like side jobs and stuff, and I didn't have it like that. So the money that I had, that I was planning, through my financial budget planning that I was doing with my sponsor and other people that were my mentor, I had a plan to get myself stable, and that money that I was making was being dedicated to moving me into that place. And so I didn't want to do nothing. So, I came up with how much, I could send and still stay on my budget to make sure that because I was still living at the recovery center. I was still a phase 4 resident. So I was still trying to get my license back. I was still trying to get my own living situation and move out of the recovery center. And I felt like my finances would be better suited getting me to those places so that I would be able to interact with him in a more stable situation.
Mm-hmm.
So the $20 was just so I wasn't doing nothing. I was doing something.
Doing what you could. And then so 6 months of that, you drop back in to it. And then now we're back to the place of, okay, I didn't know if they were going into this empty mailbox or not. Like not getting any good prompts, good responses, 6 months of that. And then now I got some pictures. Yeah, there was a day that little cloud peeked through and little sunbeam shined.
I heard the angels.
Yeah, you heard the angels start.
God, is that you?
It was a big deal, right?
Bro, it was a big deal.
Yeah, so there was just hey, I thought you'd enjoy seeing.
Bro, when I first saw who the message was from, like heart racing, didn't know if it was, because I got to open it and read it.
Yeah.
Didn't know if it was don't ever write here again. You'll never see him. I don't believe you.
Yeah.
Type of thing. So I don't remember where I was at, but I do remember that I went to get somewhere by myself because I didn't want.
If it was bad, you didn't want to blow up in front of everybody.
Yeah, either way, I didn't want to. And, I just remembered reading it, seeing the pictures, and having that sense of, the hard work is starting to pay off.
Kind of like, I picture like you got an axe and there's a really big tree, and every letter was just kind of like one chip.
One little chop.
Do you think that really did start? What was you were softening like the heart, like God was using that as an effort to like allow you a window to prove, that, hey, I'm working here, I'm working to restore this thing, I really want this thing, that was different from the past times before, right?
Yeah. I'm a big believer in God won't promote any situation that you're living sinfully in. And, if I don't know if God operates this way, but if I have to if I have to run 10 miles out of the woods and I have to, mend these relationships by proving to be consistent and for real this time, not just another wolf, crying wolf situation. Maybe God was doing the same thing. Like, is your heart pure this time? Are you gonna stay on this path? I'm not gonna introduce you back into a 10-year-old's life if you're not ready and you're not being for real. If you're trying to trick me, pull the wool over my, he knows.
He knows.
He knows, but
What you're really saying is like he's looking at the family that you hope to be restored to. Those are his kids too.
Those are his kids too.
And he's trying to
protect them the same way he's protecting me.
Yeah, either reconcile or protect.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So that's, and these are only concepts that you come to terms with when you really get into, recovery and working the 12 steps and working with your sponsor.
You're saying they don't come naturally.
They don't come naturally. This isn't my way of thinking.
Yeah.
Because my way of thinking got me in the recovery center.
Yeah. Somebody's listening to this today, I bet, and they're just like, what? Man?
They need to get us. If you're struggling with addiction and you need help, get help. There's people that can help you through your situation. I couldn't have done it on my own.
Yeah.
When they say it takes a village to raise a kid, we can adopt that in the recovery.
I'm a kid.
I'm a kid. It takes a village.
Takes a whole program.
I've come to you with a lot of my situations. I trust you with my situations, and that trust was built because I've seen the things that you've coached me through prove to be true. If the advice you've given me, the counsel, the friendship, the everything rolled up into recovery ball, 9 out of 10, some of them you drag me kicking and screaming and I don't want to do it, but 9 out of 10, the advice is solid. The experience is there. The hope is there. The strength is there. And I see it in your walk. I see it in other people in the recovery community's walk. Someone who is, they made that commitment. They're serious. You can't fool us. We are you.
Yeah.
I've been there. I've done that. There's nothing under the sun that you're going to tell me that's going to surprise me and catch me off guard and be like, whoa, that's a little different in your situation. Mm-hmm. We need to go look somewhere else.
I've never heard of that before.
Let's go look somewhere else for your help, because no, you can find it here. And there's someone in recovery, if you're looking hard enough, that can help you navigate those situations. And that's what I found.
I mean, it's ironic because the same thing's true for me. The coaching and the mentorship I get in my life, 9 times out of 10, these people, they're on target for me. So it's interesting because you wish that you were coming up with some new stuff. But what I've come to find out is I'm just like passing all this information along as it comes to me. And then I kind of put it through my experiencing, my own litmus test of experiences. And then I just ball it up and throw it out the other end. And it's nothing new under the sun. It's just working for all of us. And it's not unique. The family's heart softened, and now you got these pictures in your phone and you're like, wow. I think it's funny that you went to your, anyone who knows your personality is going to laugh when they hear that, because they're going to know why you went to yourself to read it.
Yeah, it could have been bad.
If it was bad news, we would have burnt that place to the ground, boy. Yeah.
Somebody would have paid for it that day, probably.
But so you, it wasn't like you were moving it back in with them, that day. So you got a little, the analogy of fishing.
Mm-hmm.
You're out there fishing all day.
Got a little nibble.
And yeah, that there's big fish out there, but you just rolled in the first little crappie,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh yeah, all right.
Maybe the sun's going down right. The temperature just changed.
All
Something's
right,
happening.
something's moving a little bit. Was it kind of like that? Was it like, okay, I'm not really I'm not satisfied, but I'm encouraged.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, if we use another analogy, if recovery is a car and you got to put fuel in it to keep the car going, the tank was getting low.
Okay.
I was about to stop writing the letters. I was getting all up in my head and saying it's a waste of time. She's not going to let him, and all that kind of stuff. And then bam, I hit a gas station and put a half a tank in that thing.
Yeah.
It motivated me more. It encouraged me. It put a pep in my step. It's one of those moments that they happen at exactly the right moment.
Yeah.
Because it's an exhausting process.
It's kind of like God knew.
He knew that, let me give him a little wink.
Yeah.
And let him know you're on the right track.
That's a God wink. Yeah, that's
a God wink.
People say that. That's a God wink.
You're on the right track. Don't give up just yet. I know you, because he knows me. I know myself. That is the thing. Throw up the hands. The case of the efforts, it's not working.
Yeah.
It just, luckily I was in an environment that didn't promote that kind of thinking.
Yeah.
It promoted, let's sit down, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
What would that change? To give up the amount of work that you put in, because you're not seeing the results that you expect. What would that change?
That temptation to do that doesn't go anywhere. Like it exists at every level, almost, right?
In jobs, in relationships, and whatever situation you're in, you always have that feeling of, am I doing enough? Is it going to make a difference?
Is it moving in the right direction? And is it moving at the pace it should? It's like, if I did something different, would it artificially influence this thing enough to make it go faster to where I wanted it to be? Like, isn't that always something that you're struggling with?
Yeah, for sure. And you're always wondering, like, does it even matter? Does it even matter what I'm doing? Is anybody around me noticing? And it's not all about, getting the recognition and the credit and, everybody praising you all the time, but I think, coming from where I came from, most of my wounds were self-inflicted. I didn't come from I wouldn't say I didn't come from an environment that I had to be in the situation I was in. I was in a good home for the most part. It had problems. Everything wasn't, the American dream. But once I was out of that household and on my own, I had choices that I could have made differently that would have put me in a different position. And that was hard for me to come to terms with. I played the blame game for a long time, that, I have every right to do this. Like, no one's expecting any different. They look where I came from. Look at the people that the family that I came from, the people that I was around. If I act this way, no one's going to take pause. It's like, oh, it's just another, he came from over there in that, that crowd. So instead of me, trying to break that trend and that generational curse, I embraced it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to go with it. This is who I am. This is my heritage. This is who I came from. This is the way my people are.
Yeah.
And so when I adopted that mentality and that way of thinking, it was easy to go off the rails. I could justify it a whole lot easier than just saying, no, you're doing the wrong thing, bro. You know better.
Do you think you found yourself navigating, kind of saying, I accept my fate, I wear this identity, and that's the way it's going to be? It's kind of what you're describing. When you get on the other end of this piece, you got the God wink, and then now you continued to probably just slowly send and receive exchanges. The temptation there was like to really ramp up though.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
I mean, so like you got the little, it's almost like the
And I did.
level 2 and they're just giving you a little wink and then you're like, zoom, level 10.
They cracked the door and I kicked it open. So because Christmas came around and I was like, all right, I'm gonna show him my change.
Okay.
You know, and then $1,000 later,
yeah.
he's got a new Xbox, he's got shoes, he's got clothes,
Yeah.
he's got, video games and all this stuff. And
you're not that far into your new job
And
out
I'm
of
not-
recovery.
it set me back. It was out of budget, all kinds of things.
But I mean, that's real, right? Like talk about that a little bit, because limited resources and you are financially, I mean, you're trying to rebuild your entire life. And there's a temptation there to where you really want to, and this is what the word is, splurge,
Yeah.
right? Like once they open that door, you really want to just, financially be that provider, but the income mobility doesn't go faster than that desire does. The desire to be that goes faster than it does. So that, that was hard.
Yeah, and one of the hardest things that I had to come to terms with, the way I was looking at it and the way that I was justifying it was, all right, I missed all these birthdays. I missed all these Christmases. I missed all these. I haven't bought school clothes. I haven't, taken him to the doctor. I haven't done anything for him. So it's justifiable for me to spend $1,000. And somehow, that way of thinking, I was thinking like, okay, he's going to appreciate me more for that, trying to make up for that. But it really, you can't. Like, there's nothing you can do. There's no dollar amount you can throw at it. Living with him today, half the stuff that I bought him is in the corner. He doesn't even, it's just, it's funny how we can build ourselves up to have a concept of the way things are going to be.
Right.
Like you have it all planned out in your mind,
Right.
and it's laid out, and you picturing them opening the gifts and, oh, this is from my dad, and how much that means to him. And most of it probably did in that moment. But my idea was that, I wanted him to be proud of I was able to do that.
Yeah.
And, not even thinking that here's Nicole trying to do the same, trying to do Christmas for him. And she doesn't have that because she's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
She's been paying bills. She's been paying doctors. She's been taking him to school and gas and all. And here he's opening her smaller gifts.
Yeah.
And here's dad that she let back in the picture with this grand Christmas, like dad of the year who hasn't been in the picture. And it kind of hurt her feelings.
That's a good perspective to share with the folks today, because that goes missing, in a lot of ways.
Because we don't think it through. We think about how it's helping us, but not how it's helping the whole situation. Thinking about the ripple effect.
Yeah. And you're trying to, it's coming from a good place to try to really splurge. So if you could go back, let's rewrite the script real quick, because this is really useful. I think a good perspective. If you could go back, what would you do?
I would have talked to her more. And I would have said, I'm in a position to do something nice for him. But I know you've been there with him. You know what he needs. You know what you want to get for him. Let me help you get it. And I think she would have appreciated that a whole lot more than, this is what mom did for you for Christmas. And this is what dad, who hasn't been here for the last 2 or 3 years, all of a sudden he's better than me, better gifts than me. That wasn't my intention, but I completely, looking back at it, I completely see how that turned into that. Heart was there, intention was good, but boom, messed it up again.
Wow. So you continue to progress back into the relationship like that. And as you did that, though, you finally got to a space you were spending physical time with them. But then something good happened. All right.
So yeah, she invited me to come to a couple of his football games, because I played football in high school, love football. And through that, through going to see some of his football games, she was able to see me and the change. And the way she describes it is, I've been around Dwane most of his life, and I saw the real change. The way I carried myself, the way I interacted with people, the way I talked to people, it was all different. And she kind of got curious about it. She saw how I was interacting with my son. She saw that I was being a good influence on him, being gentle and kind, patient, things that I wasn't doing when I was around, when we were together. And so through that, I would call to talk to my son, and he would quickly want to go outside to play or get off the phone and go do his thing. And she would, slowly, over a couple of those kind of phone calls that were short with my son, she would pick up the phone and say, "Hey, how you doing? How are things?" And small talk, that kind of thing.
How's the weather? Is it cold down there?
So just want to let you know, Mikey has this thing coming up. He's doing good in school. He needs to work on language arts, small talk. And those conversations became, her texting more and asking if I was available for a phone call. She wanted to, share something with me throughout her day or whatever. And it just kept building. It built from there. And the thing about it is, when we were together before, when she got pregnant with Mikey, and things weren't so bad before I, completely burnt it down, we were in love. We were engaged. We were already, planning to start a family together. But we already had bought a house together. We had a kid together. All the things. So love. The love we had for each other wasn't the problem. It was, me not being able to, do what I was supposed to do, be a provider, be a husband, be a friend, be available. I was in the streets. I was, chasing women, chasing drugs, emptying the bank account, all the things that come with addiction. And when she reached her limit, she just said, "You know what? I love you, but I got to think about me and the kids, and you just can't stay here."
Over the course of believing that you changed, the love grew back.
It grew back the same way she lost it, I guess.
Yeah. So and growing it back was kind of like what you're saying, probably a response to really good behavior, and her believing that you were truly a different, like, wow, like there's something handsome about that, right? She said, "Wow, he's handsome."
She struggled towards the end of our relationship. One of her biggest questions to me all the time was, "Why aren't me and the kids good enough for you?"
Right.
And we've had a chance to revisit that question, and I've been able to articulate and explain to her that it was never about her and the kids. And addiction doesn't work that way. Like, you can't give me an ultimatum and say us or that. That addiction's always going to win until the person is ready to address that addiction. If I get diagnosed with any disease that has a cure, but left unchecked, gets out of control and is uncurable, it's up to me to seek out the cure. It's up to me to seek out the treatment and go through the process. So I wasn't willing to seek out the treatment. I wasn't ready to change. And until that happened, her and I couldn't exist. So now it's crazy to me, the same woman, the last thoughts I had of her were, her putting doorbell camera ringers up so that when I came to the house, she could call me and say, "What are you doing there? Leave. Yeah. You're not welcome." Like, and having that feeling of, she doesn't really love me. She just, and me building myself up to be like, I provided this house that she's staying in, and I got us this far, and now she's good. So she's trying to move on to, she used me and all the kind of things that I was going through, to now almost on a daily basis, her telling me, how beautiful of a story I have, how proud she is of me and my journey. It's crazy that I get to be a part of that, to be able to step back in the scene and her give me the respect to be my son's father, for her to, give me a second chance. It's worth what I suffered through to get here.
Would it have been worth more?
What do you mean by that?
If you would have had to suffer more, would it still would have been worth it?
I mean,
double the time. Instead of 2 years, if it was 4 years.
God willing, I would have been able to hang on. But
it would have been worth it.
It would have been worth it. Yeah, it definitely would have been worth it. I just don't. I trust in the plan that God has for my life.
Yeah, and that's probably helped you build that track record with it. Now moving forward, man, you can continue to build that trust, that track record with God. And going through that is probably the same thing that fuels your tank, just dipping back into it. See, that the perfect story, this is why I knew you would be perfect for this, okay? The perfect story of family matters. How recovery helps heal, restore those relationships. And you heard it from Mr. Dwane Richardson, the Dallas Cowboy fan himself today. The entire good story. It's a beautiful story. You're right. I'm jealous of the story, man. It's wonderful. Yeah. And thank you for coming on here to share it today. I loved the emotion that we got to capture at the end. It's going to be my screensaver. That emotion.
Don't show Nicole. Just don't show Nicole.
Don't show Nicole. Another episode Behind the Citgo. Thank you for tuning in and joining us.